Even after all these years, Nicole Cyr-Mazerol is still up and at 'em early every day. Remarkable when you consider this teacher-turned-potato farmer in northern New Brunswick is, and always has been, the oldest living person born a Canadian citizen. Then again, she's not as old as you might think.
And I was born on the first day, the 1st of January 1947, 45 seconds after midnight. So I was the first Canadian to be born.
She was a New Year's baby with a difference, because 1947 was the year Canadians finally, legally, became citizens of their own country.
Ottawa, the Supreme Court judges attend the first national citizenship ceremony as the Canadian Citizenship Act comes into force.
It had been a long time coming. Back then, people here called themselves Canadian, but if you took a close look at their passports, this one was Mackenzie King's, you'd see two key legally significant words: British subject. At Confederation, that's how Canada designated its people, to keep ties with the old country. There was no such thing as a Canadian citizen, nor any special rights or privileges that would come with that. Setting out to change things, an up-and-coming politician named Paul Martin Sr.
There are two main purposes underlying the Canadian Citizenship Act.
I think that this was a debate.
Paul Martin Jr. knows the story well.
This is a very important moment in my dad's life, and really the early realization of one of his great dreams.
His father had long argued Canada should assert its nationality,
which will bring them together as Canadians.
It was a view that became widespread during the Second World War, as a national bonding grew over all the Canadians killed overseas.
The war provided a catalyst for a never again. And so that with the returning soldiers came a very strong view that Canada had to change.
But if Canadian citizenship had a eureka moment, it came at a military cemetery at Dieppe in France. In 1945, Martin Sr. went there and saw for himself the row after row of Canadian surnames of all ethnic backgrounds.
Names from really the farthest reaches of the world who had come to Canada to live. And these were young men, there's one young woman buried there, who had given their all, but for whom the description British subject, which is what Canadians were at that time, just simply was not applicable. These were Canadians who died for their country, and so he felt very strongly about it.
But not everyone felt that way, and when the government moved to create Canadian citizenship, Britain, for example, resisted. Still, within 2 years, the idea had become reality, and at a special ceremony here at the Supreme Court building 60 years ago, Prime Minister King took his oath of allegiance and became the first to utter publicly these words.
I speak as a citizen of Canada on behalf...
In his diary that night, King remarked at the thrill of hearing that applause for those words. But it was no less thrilling for a few others that day, immigrants to Canada, sworn in at the same ceremony.
Each applicant is presented with his certificate of citizenship.
Among them, a young photographer from Armenia, Josef Karsh. Others were from Russia, Poland, Romania, and this Palestinian. Together they underlined the multicultural country Canada had become and would remain. But for those who even today are surprised to learn Canada was a late bloomer on citizenship, consider the impact of an old newspaper locked away at Canada's National Archives. It was here, one day some years back, that researcher Donna Caron was looking for something else for someone else. And out came some dusty yellowed newsprint from 1947.
I just happened to come across this picture. And it's a picture of a gentleman standing in front of the Supreme Court judge receiving his...
This guy here?
This guy right here. Receiving his... taking the oath to be sworn in as a Canadian citizen. And I thought to myself, that looks like my father. And then when I read the caption underneath, it gave his name, and it was my father.
Her dad was the Palestinian sworn in that day, He was a fiercely proud but quiet Canadian and had just never made a big deal of his place in history.
You must have flipped out when you saw this.
I was flabbergasted. I had no idea that this had ever taken place.
It gives me great pleasure to present to you this visible and legal proof of your Canadian citizenship.
So when Ottawa celebrates 60 years of citizenship tomorrow by swearing in another set of new Canadians, proud daughter Donna Caron will be there thinking of her dad.
We were a nation without citizens. And I think that's rather important that we celebrate this to remember and to be thankful for the fact that we are here.
First baby, Nicole Cyr-Mazerol, will be at the ceremony too, thinking of her birthday, the day her country changed.
It was important to me, and it was important for the rest of Canada too, to know that before 1947 they were British subjects, and now they're really Canadian citizens.
Just as it was noted way back when.
Well, there is new significance in saying, I am a Canadian.
Not lost on Mackenzie King, who wrote that night in his diary of something people here would share from then on, the joy and honor in calling oneself a Canadian citizen. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Ottawa.